2020, 1 p.m. And I'd like to welcome everybody. We'll take a roll call here and then get an audience introduction of the people that are present to report in as well. So, Kelly, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Kanda?
Here.
Commissioner Flower?
Present.
Commissioner Prince?
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith?
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Let's, before we continue, let's get a head count here. Vernon, how many we got now?
Looks like we have 21 people on right now.
Okay, so we'll take a little time here. Let's try to get a name for the people that are out there. So if somebody would take the lead, let's hear a name. Say it slowly and clearly so Kelly can record it. So take it off, and I'll turn it loose for the first person.
Sarah Shield, live and good. Sorry, Sarah. No worries. Diane Rose.
Sarah, yep. Okay. Tell you what would help. Kelly, why don't you repeat it back after you hear the name so we know you're getting it.
Okay, I've got Alyssa and Sarah and Diane.
Ron Beckner with Wet Mountain Valley Cycle Club.
Got it.
Lance Ingram.
Got it.
Pepper Stafford.
Was that Pepper?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Guinevere Nelson.
Okay.
H.A. Buckwinkle.
Okay.
Ashley Franklin.
Okay.
Tracy Ballard.
Okay.
Meredith Nichols.
Okay.
Mary Littman.
Was that Mary Littman?
Mary Littman.
Okay.
Just a quick point of order here. Just for not a point of order, but a point. Let's everybody mute their mic unless they're going to talk or are speaking. If we can, that will stop the feedback.
Elliot Jackson.
Okay, got it.
Marlissa Gonzalez.
Okay.
Glenn Littman.
Was that Glenn?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Is everybody reported in that's on the line? Anybody not? Trenton Stafford.
Okay, that makes 21.
Then it must be right.
Must be right.
There's another one. Who just joined?
Nancy Drummond.
Nancy Drummond, gotcha.
Okay, we'll give it a minute here. Who just joined?
It was Marlissa again. I'm sorry. I dropped it.
Okay, that's fair.
Sorry.
All right, now let me start off the meeting in a unique way here, and then we'll get to the agenda, the approval of the minutes, the report from the board members, and the items we're going to consider. So this is a quick preamble because we got a lot of people today. First of all, I'd like to start with a quick reminder, and for those of of you that haven't been directly involved with Board of Health meetings, that this is a meeting of the Custer County Public Health Agency, and present are both the Board of Health and our Health Department Director and the health team, the team. Our agency has definitely grown and matured tremendously during this crisis. A lot of things have happened and a lot of changes have occurred. Although more needs to be done, our goal is to be proactive, not reactive. So state orders, guidelines, and recommendations must and are thoroughly must be understood and tailored to meet our Custer County unique needs and or circumstances or the situations that exist on the ground today. So we must continue to build trust with our people and trust our people to collaborate, all the teams to work together to protect our citizens, all of us, while allowing for economic growth to what is best for Custer County. Don't keep that in mind. In fact, that has been happening, and I know it's not easy to see. We have actually been working very hard and have won variances to the previous state order and intend to work new variances to the order that has just been released as required and as needed. So that's the intent for today's meeting, is to do just that. We need to work together to tailor proposed variances for submittal as soon as possible, because there's not enough time today in a meeting like this to collaborate and develop a proposed plan for each case. We need to set up a goal. Good goal for today is to set up the process for both the public health teams and the affected organizations to work together. We need to be a team together. So with that goal in mind, we can certainly get down to business and be efficient at doing that, and then set up teams to work and help do exactly that, get the variance if required, or get the rules, guidelines, and orders understood, and people able to adhere or to work together to get there. So with that, let's continue down the path here and take a look at the minutes from the last meeting. So do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
This is Jay. I move to approve the May 20th, 2020 Board of Health minutes that were submitted.
Second. I'll second that motion. Discussion? I'd like to make one comment. Kelly, you did a great job of succinctly summarizing what happened in that meeting on the 20th. It's good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do call for a vote. Commissioner Flower?
Aye.
For approval, Commissioner Brent? Aye. And I vote aye. The minutes from May 20th are accepted. And for right now, our next item, for those that do not have the agenda, it's the report from the board members. And it's a good opportunity to understand what's happening on the ground now. And the first up to do that would be Alyssa, our director, to bring us up to speed on the current state of the accidents on the ground now. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to, I guess, get right into it, we're now under the 5th amendment of the Safer at Home Order 2028 from the governor. This latest order has opened up restaurants to 50 people or 50%. It's opened the pool up to 10 at this point because it's an indoor pool at Altitude Fitness. Day camping is allowed, like for camps like Sky Ranch and Rainbow Trail, they can have day camps. However, they still cannot have like overnight campers there. So that's one thing we'd like to put into a waiver that we can talk about for the next variance request. And then, so I want everybody to be sure that you understand this, that this order is good through June 30th. So, it doesn't necessarily affect us, but if they decided to continue the same order, then it will. But anyways, it says point blank, no fairs, no rodeos, no parades. So that's something that we need to talk about putting a variance request in for. As we've talked before, my biggest concern is that if on July 1st they decide to extend that variance, that order, we will not have time to get a variance in for the 4th of July parade. I've talked to several people at the state level, and they're not at this point willing to extend a variance order past what new orders are. So that's going to be a hiccup. So anyways, currently we're at 26 people tested, 28 people tested, 26 negative, and still the 2 original positive. So we've been doing a good job of keeping the numbers down in Custer County. We are still testing 1 or 2 people a week. And like I said, so far they're still negative. I will be interested to see where we're at 2 weeks from Memorial Day, because that was really the first time that we had a lot of out-of-town people here, and we had Main Street essentially full of people. So that will be this coming Monday, will be 2 weeks. So I'm hopeful that we'll stay at these numbers, and that we'll have even more teeth to move forward with variance requests from the state. I guess I'll just make a statement right now stating that it's my professional job to uphold these orders. You put them out there doesn't mean that necessarily I agree with them personally. I don't necessarily agree that we shouldn't have a parade or a 4th of July or a rodeo or a fair, any of that stuff. In fact, I'm pretty supportive of doing it in the realm of safety and using some precautions. So I want to put that out there. I'm really, contrary to popular belief, not the bad guy here. So that's all I have for now. Meredith might have something that I forgot, but that's what was on my list for now. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you bet, Alyssa. We'll get back to discussing that, and we'll allow plenty of time for people to ask questions about that before we get into consideration of these things. Meredith, do you have something to add to what she just said from a command point of view?
No, I said hit it on really well. I definitely agree with her that, we want to see things happen, but as safely parameters as possible. And so we're going to be working, in the system that we have to work within to ensure that those things happen and try our hardest to make those happen. So,
great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And let's take a look at the board members. You got anything to report, Tom, Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple things. One, I want to throw out to the Board of Health Directors, Commissioners. Would you support contacting Kara Evans and seeing if she would be interested in serving as the Board of Health Secretary?
Sure. Certainly entertain that. Jay?
Yeah, I think that would make excellent sense.
So I would request the chairman maybe to pursue that if we're all in agreement, and see if she would be willing to do that. I truly do not have a feel one way or another what her response would be, but I think she would be a good asset.
Okay, I will take that note and I'll get a hold of her and we'll work it from here.
Just to add to that, sir, this is not part of her job description. So if she chooses not to do it, I want to make sure that does not reflect negatively as her VOCC admin position.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other point I had in my report, I think there's some people on the line today that's involved with the parade. I would ask if there are plans to conduct the parade still in place, number one.
Tom, can we wait? Because we're going to get into that when we consider that we've put both the parade, the fair, the rodeo all under the consideration for potential variance discussions. And then
I was not aware of that. I did not see it on the agenda, is why I brought it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That we made that a broad enough category so that those people that are involved, all entities are there to support that. And we can work those questions and have a good discussion. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Brent.
Yes, sir.
Anything to add or report?
So we're still talking about the agenda. No, I don't have anything specific. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then from an unfinished business point of view, do we have anything to add or complete? I don't believe there is.
I do not.
All right. And then is there any amendments to the agenda, Tom, other than what you brought up?
No.
And how about you, Jay?
I have not, sir.
All right. All right. Well, with that, let's move forward. If there are any general questions, and I've got a statement that I need to read from people that have had concerns that would be useful to consider as we're going through our discussions here. So I'll open it up for public comment, and I'll take you one at a time if you've got something right now to say before we get into the considerations that are on the agenda. Anybody? Questions, comments? All right. Hearing none for now, and I know there'll be plenty of time to comment as we go through here, and we'll end with a public comment also. I want to read a letter that was sent and was asked specifically because they were not able to attend. This is a letter to Dr. N. Wilson, County Road 202, or 202 of County Road 132. And she asked this. She says, I request that the County Board enter this letter into the official record for the June 4th, 2020, 1 p.m. meeting. I am a retired clinical psychologist. Before retiring in 2013, I practiced under my Colorado psychological license 1199. My concern is that current extreme controls recently issued by the County Board of Health as we emerge from the extended stay safe at home COVID-19 restrictions are placing a serious psychological stress on our citizens personally and on their businesses. The psychological fallout from this stress, along with the specified retaliatory threats of retaliation for any failure to comply with Board of Health orders, compounds these issues. The CCBH has failed to address these important psychological health issues and instead is instrumental in creating significant increased stressors to an already stressed community. A recent California report states that the death-suicide rate exceeds the COVID-19 death rate. John Muir Hospital reported that in 4 weeks they had more suicidal attempts than they normally see in 1 year. we only have 2 reported cases of the virus. I know that 1 death, which involved exacerbated depression issues, involved COVID-19 restrictions. In my professional opinion, the current approved public health orders, which are being enforced with extreme measures, do not help us psychologically return to normal. Number 2, do not address many of the needs of our citizens. Number 3, do not protect our citizens emotionally. And number 4, do not protect our historically friendly community reputation. I strongly recommend that the Custer County Board of Health immediately address these damaging psychological issues as they pertain to our Custer County citizens. So that is sincerely signed by Dr. Ann Wilson.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Thank you. I take exception to multiple things in this letter. I read it, I got it early. And I'm very sorry that she's not here to explain what she means. My first one is in the beginning of the 3rd paragraph. It says, my concern is that the current extreme controls issued by the CCBH, Custer County Board of Health. I take total exception to that. There are no extreme controls recently issued by the Custer County Board of Health. And she goes on to talk about enforcement as something terrible and that we're scaring the public. And I'm paraphrasing now, but I'll read her words. The psychological fallout from this stress, along with the specific retaliatory threats of retaliation for any failure to comply with the DOCC orders, compounds of the issue. There are none. There have not been any threats of retaliation, and I would like her to come defend this letter that you read into the file. That's my comment.
That's a good comment, Commissioner Brent. And in fact, that's what we need to do. That's absolutely a requirement. But she felt strongly enough, and because she couldn't be here, that this was necessary to get into this meeting so that we know where we're headed. And apparently there are some people that have been talking at people that we may not be aware of. So we need to do that. And thanks for
I am totally unaware of a single retaliatory action that was taken. The current, and this is the quote, the current extreme controls recently issued by the CCBH is wrong and it needs to be taken to task. I'm putting that in. So I would like to have her address us and tell us what it is she's speaking about. If I am wrong, that's fine, but I am unaware of anything. She makes the accusation without any backup, and then she does not here to defend it. This is inappropriate in my opinion.
All right, good comment, and that's, if you recall, that's one of the things I mentioned up front. This is important that we all work together collaboratively, and if there's something out there that we're not all aware of, you know how people are in some cases. Sometimes the elephant in the room is big, and we don't see it sometimes. So I agree.
Well, Mr. Chairman, are you aware of any of these accusations that she made that I'm not privy to? Because if you are, I'd sure like to hear it.
No, I'm not, sir. I would certainly bring them out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's why I agreed this, because she was very, very, very emotional about it and very serious about it. And it's we have to, as a good citizen of the county, and anybody who would be concerned, we need to hear it. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman? Thank you, sir. Yeah, I read the letter as well. So I tried to respond to Mrs. Wilson via the email. I actually just hit reply, and I did that twice, and it came back both times, so I have no idea what the issue is there. Kind of befuddles me how I could reply to her email and it not go through, but I want to read what I had responded to her. I said, "Hi, Ann, regarding reading of the letter will fall to the chairman's responsibility, but I am not sure what extreme controls you are referring to. The Board of Health will, in my opinion, continue to have the health and safety of our county as our primary objective. I echo your concerns pertaining to the psychological stress this pandemic has put on our citizens. Again, I tried to send that to her twice, and it came back both times. Thank you.
Yeah, and just like you, I did just receive this late. They're too late to get back. Anyway, there we go. We got it read. It's the right thing to do, and we do need to meet. So thank you guys for commenting. All right. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, let's move forward and work together on the next item. So, consideration of potential variances of the state guidelines. Alyssa alluded to some of those. Alyssa, would you, to get it started before we talk about specifically the parade or the fair or the rodeo, there are discussions that have occurred internally looking at this order that there are some inconsistencies. There are things that we think we could and should issue a variance against. Would you list those out again for everybody?
Sure, thank you. So, primarily, at this point, we would need to put a variance in for the current orders that will only, and again, I want to reiterate that this order will only be good, the variance will only be good for this order, which expires June 30th. So, one of the things that I definitely want to have in that variance request is to have the camps open to family groups only to stay overnight. So what that looks like is the camps can have overnight stays, but like in one cabin, it has to only be one family unit, not several family units staying together. Sky Ranch and Rainbow Trail have both given us really good plans, which I know we're going to talk about Sky Ranch here next, but I'm in favor of opening those up to the family groups. I mean, they have good plans on how to feed and how to do activities and everything, keeping everybody apart. So I think that's something we should look at. We're in a, we need to probably talk about what our thoughts are for the parade, fair, and rodeo coming in July. The super frustrating thing for Meredith and I is that, again, we'll get those new orders on July 1st and then have to scramble to get variances put together in time for those events to happen. So, and that's if the order still even says that it's not able to happen. I know that the state is getting a ton of pushback from all the counties in this area, in the state. We're not the only people that have a 4th of July parade or a fair or a rodeo. So hopefully with the feedback from the entire state, we'll be able to make some headway with that as far as the state's concerned.
Was there a group size? Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point, we're still at 10 people or less for outdoor or indoor gathering, except for restaurants and churches. So again, it's not uniform across the board, and it's super frustrating because if you can have 50 people sit together in church for an hour or 2 hours, what the heck difference is it for them to be outside? You think it would be even better for them to be outside. So I share everyone's frustration and concern about this. And at this point, the only medium we've been given is the variance request. So that was another thing that we were talking about putting in the variance request, was to increase gathering sizes to 50 across the board. So that could be indoors, outdoors, whatever, 50 people. So which would, help a lot of issues. It would help fair tremendously. Parade probably as well. So again, the timeline situation is frustrating on that. So the other thing that Meredith and I talked about was putting out a Google form, much like the state did, for community input on events, on people's opinions of how we could carry these events out and still maintain you know, the dreaded social distancing and masks and disinfection. So that's what the state did when they put out the recommendation of 50 people in church or in restaurants, and gave people the opportunity to chime in and say what their thoughts were on that. So we're thinking about doing the same thing in Fletcher County, so that we could have a good kind of snapshot of the entire county to put in our verbiage for the variance that we need to put forth on July 1st, essentially. So, Meredith, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you hit on what we need for variance right now. Again, there's more conversation to have with those events on the agenda, but you covered everything.
Okay. Thank you, Alyssa. No, and this is just my comment from me, not the health board. But if it were up to me, you know, we would like to have everything open. You know, it would be nice to have everybody working together to come up with the plan that we agree on. And Alyssa, you brought that up. It's a good segue into it. In fact, it should not be just up to the public health agency to come up and interpret these orders and then tell you everybody, here's how we're going to do it. It's better if it is worked with the people that are involved, and we have a good opportunity now on 3 issues that are coming up, not only the Sky Ranch issue, but the parade, and specifically the fair and the rodeo, to look at how we can do that. We don't have to solve either or all of those today with a plan. We don't have to develop the plan. I have no intention to work the plan in this meeting. But it would be my desire as part of the Board of Health and the Public Health Agency that we work the teams together and specifically come up with the plan that even if the waiver, this current waiver, of course, we can't do. It's not going to be working the parades nor the fair nor the rodeo because we can't do them. But we certainly could be working now to lay down the groundwork for a straw man or a skeleton of a plan that once we understand the next order that's going to be out after the 1st of July, that we could implement it and continue going down the road for the potential waiver that might be necessary at that time. So with that, let's hear. We talked about.
Bill, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the adjustment that we're going to be going forward, and we already did that with the planning committee for the parade, and so there's going to be that adjustment of working with each event planner to make sure that to help us say yes to the events happening. So, like, unfortunately, we're in these parameters and working together to make sure that they can be accomplished and planned out.
Right.
So we're already in that process.
I understand. That's why I brought it up, and the reason I also brought it up is because we'll take the parade as an example. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and I know that in the short time you had to talk with them in their meeting with you, that you came up on a conclusion that may or may not be acceptable to everybody involved. And so there's plenty of time to work it without closing the door, is my point. And we need to hear from them. That's one of the reasons they're here. Fair rodeo is the same. So all we want to do today is listen and then see what we need to do to adjust what the next steps are together with each of those. Fair enough? So with that, let's move forward here. I would recommend, because of time, you've got a good proposal in from Sky Ranch. If we want to consider the details on it or conclusions on it first before we get into the other items.
I think they're chatting.
And I'm asking.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So if I read the agenda correctly, I've got a couple of comments about the variance to the guidelines.
Right. Okay.
Specifically for the guidelines. If you're going to move on, that's fine. I'll
No, I
deal with
don't
it some
want
other time.
we're not done with it. As a matter of fact, the reason I'm asking that question is I just want to save time. It just occurred to me as she was talking that we may need to discuss the parade, the fair, and the rodeo issues first. So, go ahead, Tom.
So pertaining, and I guess this is, well, it's directed at the commissioners as well as Public Health and Office of Emergency Management. I look at the new orders that came out, 20-28, page 4, H2C. I have desperately tried to overlook the fact that we have a very liberal, non-agricultural, supportive, democratic governor. But clearly, he has no regard for the agricultural industry when you read Part C, which deals with organized recreational youth or adult league sports, may resume with no more than 25 players, but yet he will not allow a fair or rodeo or a parade. I struggle with that tremendously. I think he's very counterproductive to the agricultural base of this state. Clearly, his antics at the state fair in September pointed to that. It just irritates me that we can go ahead and allow kids to play softball or baseball, but we can't allow agricultural kids to do their stuff outdoors. It's absolutely asinine and unacceptable. So I would definitely like to see something in a variance addressing that topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for the comment. I happen to agree also. If you remember, I think they allowed people to get into the hot springs but not play soccer. That doesn't make sense to me at all either. So, speaking of that variance, though, but that's a variance that we're going to ask for the next order. So that's something that needs to be addressed by the team as we start working the rodeo and the parades and the fair request here. So do we want to hear from the parade people next to see where we are with that so that we all understand what needs to be done together? I would like to hear from Ashley, please.
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Ashley.
So basically where we're at with the parade is we've met with Alyssa and Meredith, and they've basically stated that to do the parade with the variance, we would need to have everybody line up and down the parade route and stay in their cars. And so we're just not feeling that that's very feasible. We did submit a plan that Tracy was able to secure the east and west lots of the parking lot of the school. And so those would be basically contactless parking lots, so people at risk would have somewhere to go that's safe during the parade. And then, of course, in that waiver, we also suggested that we would recommend social distancing, as we don't know what any of those parameters will be 30 days from now. But we also know, too, that we cannot constitutionally restrict people from going out and enjoying the parade. We can't police them. We can't force them to do anything. So we understand that, too. And then with that being said, we also will work with the participants to make sure that they're doing their best to do social distancing and the things that need to be done to be safe. Overall, we want to bring this to the community because we have been struggling for months. And kind of what Dr. Wilson's letter was saying is, people are down. We've been told we can't do the Memorial Day parade. We can't go out. We can't do anything. So we want to do this, and we want to work with the community and the Board of Health so that the community can come out and celebrate. I mean, this is the birth of our nation, so we're still trying to be positive, but we also want to be reasonable with time and what we've got up against us. And it's very frustrating that we've pulled the insurance policy, we've filled out the applications, we're doing it all right, but we look around in the country and there's looters and rioting, and do they have insurance policies? No. But yet here we are still trying to follow the rules, and we're basically being told no. So that's frustrating as well. And the fact that I know everybody says, well, it's here, the corona's here, but we haven't had a case in how long? And I understand tourists are coming in, but it's just trying to work with everybody, and we want to do the parade. It's just frustrating. So what we're here today, and Tracy, I'll let you go ahead and talk too, is basically to see what you guys would approve for us to continue to conduct the parade. And then Tracy, if you want to go ahead too, feel free.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we want to follow the rules, and we want to have this parade and be as safe as possible, but there comes a time where you have to stand up for what's right. Pardon?
Tom, I think you need to mute your mic.
No, you're talking to the wrong person, sir.
Oh, really? It sounded like you, Tom. Somebody needs to mute their mic. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay. Yeah, we want to do everything that's right, but we also don't want to have a right stepped on anymore. But like Ashley said, what would you accept other than people staying in their vehicles and not being able to go outside? Because you had also mentioned, Alyssa, that you would shut us down immediately if anyone stepped out of their vehicles or were out of their, outside. So we just need a little bit of direction on how we can go forward.
Let me make a comment, because it's not fair to, what we don't want to do is debate it here in this meeting, but what we do want to do is, I know there are lots of ways to skin a cat, and to work, we got time to work that. We don't have to have the answer in 5 minutes, given that this may not occur for another 30 days where we need that variance. So I would like to, to see what it means. If it's lining the Highway 96 all the way down from the top of Silver Cliff down to the bowling alley with 12-foot tapes keeping everybody 12 feet apart, if that makes us all happy, or whatever the option might be, then let's work together and not just they tell us what you want you to do, and we don't want to have you say, here's what we're going to do. Let's figure out how we can compromise on this. And I would like to see Ashley, you and Tracy get together, come up. We need options I'm speaking as a Board of Health now, to have options to consider that from our public health department, and after taking a look at the options that you all present, let's see what there are available for us to consider, and either tailor those in another meeting, and specifically direct an agenda item to that specific decision that needs to be made. I think it's great to bring this up to our attention right now, and and I personally agree that we need morale boosters. That's a given, for sure. So, any comments from the board, Commissioner Trent?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe these are the issues that Ann was talking about, but we put in place a public health director and a director of office emergency management to give us guidance on what we should do. issue with compromise as long as it falls within the confines of the law. I will not be in favor of compromise that circumvents the orders coming down from the state. So I fully understand what Ms. Ashley is saying about patriotism, and we need to get out, we need to rah-rah and do all these things during this horrible time we're in right now. And she's absolutely right with the riots and the corona and everything else going on. Waving the flag is wonderful. We need to do it. I agree with that completely. But I'm not willing to forego the benefits to Custer County by circumventing state law, and that is a potential that could occur if we violate the orders coming down from the state without a legal variance. So while I'm 100% in favor of compromise and working it out, it has to be within the confines of the law. And that's my comment. But I really appreciate Tracy and Ashley taking this on. It's such an important thing for our community. I commend them, but we just need to be very careful how we do it.
Thank you, Jay, for your comments. Tom, you got comments as well, please?
Well, yeah, couple one, I wished everybody silenced their phones so we can conduct our meeting here without a lot of interruptions. Secondly, I guess I have a question. I think it was to Ashley, or maybe it was to Tracy. You said you've been told no. I guess my question is, who has told you no, and what were they telling you no to? And then I'd also like to know what your planned parade route is.
Hi, Tom. This is Ashley. So we had a call with Meredith and Alyssa, and we turned in our waiver like we were asked to do, that stated the different guidelines that we were going to do this parade. And I do believe, I sent it to Bill yesterday, so I'm not sure if you guys have seen the copy of it yet, but we have followed those steps. And so when we had the call with Alyssa and Meredith, we were told that the only way that the parade can be done is if everybody lines the street from the dome all the way to the bluff and around and stays inside of their car. It was very clear that those rules must be followed and there would be no other consideration. So that's kind of where we are. And we have turned in the waiver with an option. It's the most feasible that we can see right now without stepping on people's rights. And I guess I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not, but I would like to know what these benefits are that the county is going to receive, or why we're so worried about not stepping out of line. Because, I mean, this may not be in line as well, but we're a 2A sanctuary city, and we became that because we didn't agree with what the governor had done. And so we stood up, the commissioners voted, and we did that. So I also don't understand why we can't stand up. And like Tom said, I know you're disgusted that we can't do anything for our agriculture kids. We need to stand up to these people and say, these are our rights. This is our right to assemble. Granted, it's called a parade, but it is our right to assemble and our right to celebrate the nation. And I understand there's health concerns, but with this county and its state, I think it's fine for now. I think if we do some precautions, like the contactless parking, because we do know there's families here. We do know there's kiddos with cancer and things like that where they do have to be restricted. And we want to accommodate them because we want them to come out. But the fact that we're tiptoeing around against a governor who continues to shut us down and tell us we need to stay in our basements with our masks on, it's just getting out of hand. I mean, this is a summer open-air event that's almost a mile long. I mean, we are not asking too much. And I think with the waiver, I know you guys say we need to be proactive, so why can't we have that waiver written so that July 1, 8 a.m., that's submitted? So that kind of goes with Mr. Chairman's thoughts of being proactive and then also tailoring things to make successful events. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but hopefully.
Okay, Ashley, let me stop you there because you did a good job of answering Tom, and I'll have him comment on that. The one point that we've got to make, we just all agreed. Remember, it's not the public health agency's way only. It's not the person asking for a waiver's way only. It's a way that we have to work out together. And I think you heard the Commissioner Prince say we're willing to listen. That's our job as the board. We look at options and we consider other things. We have the authority to do it, but it has to be within the law, first of all, and secondly, it has to be done so that we do go against what the governor says in the right way. A waiver is doing just that, actually, and so we want to do that. Now, it may not meet all our best desires or give us everything we want in the waiver. As a matter of fact, the waivers we got on the first day's list they were about a third of what we wanted, but we got it. So we just need to be ready, and you made a good point, be ready day one with a waiver, and that's why I brought up this whole point of working together now to compromise if necessary, or to give us options. I don't hate to use the word compromise. That means we're doing something potentially illegal. That's not true. But in the end, if things were that bad and that cumbersome, we would compromise to the point where you have the American Revolution, and we're not going that far. I don't think that's necessary now, like we did in 1776. So you guys are working very hard. I think both Tom and Jay have pointed that out, and we want to not have you lose that attitude, and we got to work with our team on the side to adjust it if we can. So that's the next step, I believe, is to get the options together, and let's get a meeting. We can have a meeting at a 24-hour notice. So, Tom, do you have additional comment on that?
Well, I had asked about the parade route. I wanted to know what the proposed parade route is.
Oh, and I meant to mention that too. I'm sorry, I did not. When they submitted, they sent me a note that said, "Here's what we're going to discuss," and I told them that would be great to discuss it with Alyssa and get her input and work with her. That's why I didn't bother to push it out to anybody else. But I can send you what they sent me later, and I'll let Ashley tell you the route right now because I don't remember it either.
Well, yeah, as a Board of Health Commission member, I'd appreciate having that information.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize that we were going to need it because I thought that we were just going to work ahead. But that's a good point, and I'll send that as soon as we get done here. But Ashley, please answer his question on the route.
As far as the route right now, we have been very blessed to have the Sentinel helping us because they have done parade year after year. So they have a well-oiled machine, and we are just going to run with it so that we don't have any hiccups and issues, considering all of the extra things that we would have to put into place to make this parade run. So the parade route that we're looking at is everybody lining up on Hermit like they normally do, starting at the Dome and then ending at the grocery store, with one entry going into the grocery store, one going towards the bluff so that there's not a bottleneck at the end.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Bill, this is Meredith. Can I just respond to a few things?
Sure, go ahead.
So I just want to, maybe this was misunderstood in the meeting, and if so, apologies. We didn't say no. We said that this would be the best option for the state to give us a variance. And so I definitely agree that we can, we don't have to decide anything now. There's time in June to figure out the best option to find that middle ground where we can still protect the health and safety of our community and still have community events I'm frustrated too. But this is the function that we're in. And honestly, the risk isn't gone. I know we've been in this for 3, almost 4 months now, well aware, and it's been tiring and frustrating almost every step of the way. And I'm right there with the community in that. But I also want to make sure that's known that the risk isn't gone. And the more we open up, which is needed, the risk continues. Again, we're in a waiting pattern for Memorial Day and how many people we have in our community. And we're going to be in a waiting pattern each time we reopen. And so it's like we said from the very beginning, it's a long road. It's been a frustrating road for everyone. But the risk isn't gone. And we have to plan accordingly for that. Within the mindset, yeah, we do have to try and have some normal things, but in a different context, just like options for the parade to happen. We want it to happen. We want things to happen. They just have to happen within a parameter that continues the health and safety of our community. And that's our role. That's our job to ensure that. So apologies if it sounded like we said no in the meeting. That wasn't our intent. Our intent was just to try and find that middle ground. But we do have all month to figure out these plans, not only for the parade, but for eventual events in the summer.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. That's very good point. Ashley, would you please send? I don't think you gave me the packet or the exact thing you sent Meredith and Alyssa when you discussed it. Would you resend that, because what I have here to all three of us?
No problem.
Okay. All right, so the next step then would be for you all to get together here as soon as possible and start working that, and then let us know when we can schedule you up for consideration of the options that you all want to propose together.
Thomas?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, question? Thank you. So I guess a question directed to Alyssa and Meredith. Would you consider allowing family units to stand outside of their vehicles to watch the parade and maintain the 6-foot distance from other groups?
Yeah, this is Meredith. Definitely. If we give a landmark for families to stay within their unit, it would be easier for not only them, but for us, in general. So, yeah, stay around your car, stay within your family units. You can get out of your car. I think that's a valid option for sure. This is Alyssa. Can I say a couple of things?
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Thank you. So, first of all, I agree with Meredith completely, and we did talk about that in the meeting with Tracy and Ashley, that, that we could possibly make some way for people to stand outside of their vehicles. I'd like to just say a couple of things about the plan. First of all, the plan is no different than every other year's plan. People have always stayed in their vehicles if they didn't want to get out in the school parking lot and at various points throughout the parade route. So that's really the plan. Though it's a plan, it's not something that we can actually carry out. And so, same thing with what they're saying of making everybody stay in their vehicles. I agree. I understand that's probably, again, a plan, but not something that can actually be carried out. We did suggest that the parade route be lengthened, and we're told, that just wasn't going to work. So we definitely need to have a meeting where, everybody works together. But I am going to request that those meetings happen with the Board of Health, because we've already had a meeting and we came to an impasse. There was nothing more, that we could do. So at this point, I think it's important that we have those meetings with the Board of Health as well.
Alyssa, this is Bill. I have a question, too, similar. First of all, it needs to be worked out with you all without the influence of us sitting there. You guys need to work together. And, for example, you brought up a good point. What's the point of saying you must stay in your car? They're not going to. Why is it that, I'll ask the same question Tom did, families can get out of the car why can't a person in a car that's 12 feet away from the next car get out of his car? And that, as long as that's understood and you're meeting social distancing guidelines or requirements, because, even the desire to have people stay in a grocery store 6 feet away from each other, happens to not work all the time. They walk by each other. In this case, people are going to be stationary and be a lot easier. And you've got, at some point, we have to trust people to do what you all agree is going to be happening to keep us safe and still make this thing or whatever the job or mission is that we're going to do happen. So I think it's, you can't polarize and dig in on a position right now and then have it be, be no point in getting together if that is the position right now, because we've already discussed 3 options that maybe can be modified on the plan they suggest. So my personal opinion is please go back to the drawing board with them, and if you need help manpower-wise, if for some reason we can need to go out and measure pieces of pavement and figure out where the people need to stand and make marks or whatever it is, I'm betting you $1.50 if there's enough support for this, we'll get a lot of volunteers to go out and start helping meet the guidelines under your direction that makes things happen to build that plan.
So with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, we have been told numerous times, Meredith and I, that we don't have the authority to do anything without the Board of Health. So that is why we are asking for your presence in these meetings.
Well,
the other thing I'd like to bring up is that we were threatened that they would start a riot if we didn't allow for the parade to happen. So at what point do we say enough is enough on both sides? Thank you.
My comment.
May I please respond to that?
Go ahead.
We never said a riot was never, ever, ever, ever said we would do a march, a riot was never stated. And I take very serious offense to that. We are doing everything we can to stay within the parameters of the law and the orders that have been put down. That was a very unfair statement.
Okay, noted. That's good. Like I said, we don't need to get into an argument here on this.
No, Mr. Chairman, this is Ashley. I would like to know who threatened the riot. I stated that there are riots going on, and it is not fair that we are trying to do the right thing, but people are allowed to riot. I also take offense to that, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay, good
I don't
point.
appreciate being constantly undermined by every single thing that I do. This is Alyssa, in case you didn't notice. And I'm sorry that I said riot, but you did absolutely say that you would organize a protest, which is where riots start. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, please take control of this meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, Jane. I've got you. All right, that's enough about arguing about it. Bottom line is you have the authority to work with people, Alyssa, and come back with options. That's all we've ever wanted from anybody. If it became a requirement that would be needed that the board has to act on, and we can do that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have you all work together, look at options, and come back and let us decide that finalize results are and go from there. All right?
Meredith, I just want to say, I believe what Alyssa was asking for was support in this. It's support from the Board of Health to find a middle ground.
That's good.
Wanted to throw that one out there.
But we've got to go ahead and work with them, come back with the options, and we'll help you do that. Okay? Let's talk about the other subjects now. The rodeo is next on that same issue. Ron, you've got a program to present and a plan. You're going to see the same thing? How are we going to work with you now?
Well,
Point of
Mr.
order, Mr.
Great question.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
I thought the Saddle Club was the last thing on the agenda, if I'm on the right agenda. Yep.
No, it's not the Saddle Club. Well, I'm sorry.
I thought we were under the consideration of the potential variance to the state guidelines where you said we were going to be addressing the parade, the fair, and the rodeo in that, Mr. Chairman. Was I misinformed?
I did group those together, and I did realize that, that's true. That's the bottom line. The agenda item is there. But I think it's appropriate here, Tom. You have any objection to that?
No, it's fine.
I was not going to get into the update on the rodeo plans at this point. I was going to be addressing the potential variance to the state guidelines. That's what I was going to address at this point, since that's what was laid out at the beginning of this meeting by the chairman.
Yeah, and were you intending to come up with the plans and present that now before that happened, Ron?
No, I was not. I was going to state during our point in the agenda where we are and what our plans are moving forward to have a consolidated plan effort.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's why it should have fit up here in the first place. We should have probably mentioned that when we were looking at amending the agenda, but thank you. All right, so go ahead, Ron.
Okay, very good. So I did go through and looked at the variance, and as Tom had mentioned earlier about the Public Health Order 2028, I did go over that as well, and I am going to just reflect on that opinion as well. I absolutely do not see anything there that this governor has laid out that is going to help the youth in this community do what they do best, and that is on the agricultural side. Some of the things that I have seen in this variance, and the pages are not numbered, but I went through and numbered them myself, and I've just got a few questions starting on page 5 of this document of the Phase 1 lifting restrictions that have low risk for community spread. There's a section there that has limitations on public-private gatherings / congregations. Gatherings greater than 10 would still be prohibited. That in this variance just really has me questioning things, since we can have 50% indoors with restaurants or 50 people, yet we're still in this variance listing that any gatherings greater than 10 would still be prohibited. That's questionable to me, trying to understand why we would still have that if we're looking for a variance. I can go right down the list, and we can go through my questions on this variance, or do we want to address them one at a time, Mr. Chairman?
No, the whole point is to lay them out first, Ron. And
okay, very good.
Either back to the drawing board with a bunch of help, and we'll come back with
I have a
options.
question. Can we define terms? Are you saying variance or public health order? So the variance is what the county will issue to the state. The public health order is what the state has issued.
That's right. And we're talking a variance to that order.
Right. I was just trying to make sure we're understanding the right terms, because Ron is saying variance, but I think you're talking about the order. I'm not sure. I just want to check.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at what I was able to find online. I know that this variance application was dated on, let's see, it looks like 5/6/2020.
So are you looking at our tax variance then? Because we haven't issued a variance to this new public health order yet. So I guess I'm just confused at what you're talking about.
That's an excellent point, Meredith, because Ron, the new health order is what we're talking about. The issuing which Alyssa laid out earlier, laying out a variance to that new order, which changed the gatherings of 10.
Okay, so very good. I guess I would be addressing things in an old variance, but it looks like we don't get to see anything prior to the variance that's listed. So I don't know why we need to have any comment on this if we don't know what's being asked for.
No,
My understanding, Ron, sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to step over you. I was just saying that the point is to get the input for the next variance, is my understanding, right?
that's correct. And Ron,
Okay. Thank you.
The new order is very constrictive in some cases, and as Alyssa pointed out, very irregular and not uniformly applied across the board where it makes sense. So if you can have public gatherings of 50 in some cases and not others, that's not right. How many and what kind of a variance would you need to conduct the rodeo and where you're headed down the road? That's why we wanted to discuss this. So that you can help work that variance so they can work the wording and get it in line for the next release on that, and that will be the 1st of July.
Well, thank you for that clarification. So, and I can still address it based on what I am looking at. So thank you for pointing that out, Meredith and Mr. Chairman. So I am looking at the variances. So yes, we will definitely need something greater than 10. I like the idea of the 50% of our capacity. When you start getting down to crowd control and the number of people per square foot, you know, they're allowing people to go into these big box stores. I want to know what the formula would be for an outside type event, such as the rodeo and or fair. You know, when you start...
The order is 50% or 50 people, whatever is fewer. I just want to make sure. So,
okay, and
10% of your capacity or 50 or lower or less, whatever is less.
And very good. I appreciate that. But I would like to know what is the formula for an outdoor space. Is there some kind of a formula per square foot, per acre, per what?
Mr. Chairman.
Well, Meredith, let me try something here real quick. Meredith is pointing out what it says, Ron. That if there is no formula right now.
Okay.
So
Mr. Chairman.
Ideally, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was just going to say that's not totally accurate. The national guidelines for bleacher seating, minimum 18, average of 24 inches per person. Thank you.
Right. Then that's not what I was referring to. I think he's looking for what's the guideline on if the box store has X thousands of square feet and you can put 50 people in there over 500. It's based on some formula. Why isn't there one like that for seating, which a stadium could be modified for social distancing for whatever footage it is? So I think that's where Ron is headed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I am just kind of looking for what would be the standard formula, and it doesn't even have to be for the stadium seating. It's just for, you know, a park in general. When you start looking at the outdoor recreation activity at the parks, you know, they say that they want to limit it to local residents, and I know that the question has always been, how can you ensure that? Well, how can the state ensure that the only local people are going to these parks or open spaces? That, you know, I agree with the inconsistencies here, and I think we need to be, you know, again, let's focus on what this community's needs are and make sure the variance complies in that direction. And that rodeo, the fair, and parade are all part of it.
Yeah, let me throw my 2 cents in, and then we'll move on again.
Thank you.
It's a good point, and that's why you all need to come up with what you think the formula should be for us. If that rodeo ground, and depending on what's going on where and how many people you think are going to be there and how far apart they're going to be, come up with that formula for us to consider as a variance to whatever the order might be. You know, if this means we think we can get 250 people around the arena all the way around, and different kinds of seating that they're going to build or make different, you know, come up with that proposal for us to consider. We can't, because because we're in new ground. That's what's been happening all along. I mentioned that at the front of the meeting. We've learned a lot, we've grown a lot, and we need to work together to come up with an answer to compromise it. Or to work, you know, come up with the best solution. So I know you've talked about TV activities that are going on. You need to consider the restrooms and where they're going to be, or whether we get more porta potties. All those things you need to work out and come work with Alyssa and her team to see what might work, it might be work, and still keep us safe, yet more productive from an economic point of view.
Absolutely, and we are currently working on those guidelines, so when they are completed and approved by our board and our rodeo committee, we will be bringing those to the Custer County Public Health Agency and see where we go from there.
And give us plenty of time, work the options, work back and forth, and then come to us if there's an impasse where the concerns that Alyssa has or the concerns you have can't be compromised or you can't agree on, then that's why you meet with us, and we'll help that decision.
We're planning on having it within the next week or two at the most.
Okay.
This is Meredith. I want to also highlight that, again, even if it's plans that we think are great and we come to that compromise with the parade, with the rodeo and all of that, it's still up to the state. They have that final say within that waiver or the public health order. If they say no to our waiver or amend it in a certain way, that's the way that we have to go. So
that's what we're
I also want to make sure that's not forgotten.
Very good point. Thanks, Mary. All right. Do we have, and Tom, you may have the answer on this, is there anything from a fair point of view, variance-wise, that we need to think about now and get a team working on to conduct the fair?
This is Marlissa.
That would be up to the fair board.
I know, that's why I was asking.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm not the person to ask, sorry.
Hi, this is Marlissa. Can you hear me?
I got you now. I knew you were.
Okay. So last week we proposed the Plan B, and we had our recommendations. We would still like to work within those recommendations and that scope, and so we need further instruction on what we can do with Alyssa and Meredith to provide for this variance for them with underneath that Plan B for the fair. I did submit with the Custer County Sales Committee. I did submit a Safe Sale Plan A and a Safe Sale Plan B to Alyssa this morning. I don't know if did anybody else receive that. I'm sorry, I didn't know if I was supposed to send it to all or just Alyssa to send on.
Well, we were looking for you to do exactly what you've done, and then working together, come back and tell us what you're going to do, or have us help with the compromise if necessary.
Okay. So with the recommendations from last week, we were going to continue on with the Plan B. There's the Safe Sale Plan A and the Safe Sale Plan B options. In sake of time, do you want me to read that to you, or do you want to look it over? What would be the best to do?
Have you all worked with Meredith and Alyssa? Are you telling me you're in agreement?
Alyssa, were you able to review that this morning, or?
You know what? I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed that I didn't. I literally was in bed with a migraine all morning.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. I should have got it to you sooner.
No, it's fine. And you know what? Your B plan is fantastic. I love it. It is very inclusive. It is what I think is very doable, so that when we submit that to the state, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be like, yes, that's totally fine.
Okay.
And so I didn't read the sale plan, but if it's anything like your B plan for the rest of fair, it's going to be fine.
Okay. It goes along with the same policies as we were talking about with the Sale B plan. I mean, the Fair Plan B. The only other question I had, and this is Lance May could speak to it, and we're asking for recommendations. Would it be better to not call ourselves a fair anymore because what we're doing is just limiting to exhibitors and basically parents? So like it would fall under more of a youth recreation and sports where they can have up to 25, because I think we have altogether, I think we have maybe 22 participants.
Another way to skin the cat, isn't it?
Well, I'm asking. I'm just throwing it out there just to ask. I just didn't know if, because we're not having vendors and we're not doing any of that.
Yeah, this is Alyssa. Marlissa, I think that's a great idea. I think, well, and so here's the thing. FFA is a separate entity from 4-H, and 4-H and FFA are a separate entity from the fair. And so if we can use that to our advantage and wordsmith it so that the state will approve it, then I'm all for it. I mean, same situation for the rodeo and the parade. It's just, yeah, we just have to work together like we are. So, but yeah, I think that we work every angle we can of that because everybody else is going to, and I mean we've kind of been hosed from every angle other ways. So we're gonna have to start using that to our advantage as well. I agree.
Oh, okay. And so what do you need from the sales committee and the fair board committee to move forward in the variance, and how can we help with our part of it?
Thank you so much for asking that. So let me look through your sale stuff. I'll do that with this meeting, but I think we can present your Plan B as our variance. Okay. And then, I don't know, like I said, I really feel like it's pretty airtight. There's really not anything that the state can say, well, you know, because of X, Y, Z, like, other than because Polis doesn't support agriculture. I mean, yeah, plain and simple as that.
I was just wondering if, like, maybe if we just call it I don't know, funny, like a livestock sport or something. I don't know.
Could we not just call it our junior livestock show and sale? I mean, fair conjures up images of Ferris wheels and fried junk food on a stick and cotton candy, right? And that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. Well,
there's a broad generalization, right? So for the rest of the world, having lived a lot of other places, the fair becomes a big congregational event, and I think what we're really doing, honest to goodness, is youth recreation. Just because we're not playing baseball, in my mind, it's no different. And as long as we comply with those guidelines he put out for youth recreation, that's how I think we should spin it as a fair board and as a sale committee. Because in my mind, they would have a hard time holding our junior livestock kids to a different standard than they're holding baseball kids.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I do too. This is Bill. I have a question for both of you along those lines. Is what if it's not a fair? What happens to the rest of the 4-H stuff that goes on?
Well, we could call it, if we can't use 4-H and FFA, but we can just call it our 4-H and FFA show, or I hate to use event. I don't know what other word that we could use that might be okay.
That's a great idea. It's just, my point is, we're not going to do that. Right? I mean, kids that have put a lot of their life together, building things, doing
this is from all indoor projects. The whole Fair Plan B. It's our Fair Plan B that we discussed last week. So it would be the whole thing.
All right.
We just wouldn't have spectators or public people. The exhibitions of the kids, of all their projects, all their hard work would all be done and displayed in our Fair Plan B like last week.
Okay, now the second question I had was, now what the whole point of the parade and the rodeo guys right now are working a variance if the release of a new public health order comes down, and we need to consider the best thing that could happen is fairs are turned loose there may be a fair consideration in the next order after the 1st of July. Are you all ready to work a variance to that order is the point. How would you make this any bigger or better in the next step if it's possible?
Right now, as it stands, like we can do everything under the Fair Plan B that was always happening, except we're just splitting up into different days instead of having everybody congregate for the whole week. It's splitting it up into different days. So if it was released and we could go off with our Fair Plan A, then our fair would just happen just the way it normally happens.
Right.
Again, we don't have.
But my point really was, the next step could be you could have parents attend. You could have attendance at some level if you had considered how you would handle that. As an example,
under our Fair Plan B from last week was all that the parents could attend. They just had to stay in their family group.
Okay.
And social distance.
All right.
And I believe there's 22 family units, right, Marlissa? I mean,
yeah.
We're not talking about a lot of people. When we broke it down, you'd have 22 family groups that would show at fair, all in total.
And we would keep, between the different barns, different times when the species would be in, those family groups become a lot smaller. For example, we have 5 goat kids, so that's 5 goat kids plus their parents, in that space, in that realm at the time.
We'll move on in order to keep going here, but my thought was that just like Ron brought up on the rodeo and the box stores, if it's possible to have people start coming through at some level with a certain amount of people in the barn that aren't all related, it could be possible to get a variance to do that, or it might be that the next phase could incorporate that. That's all I was suggesting.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I mean, definitely we would like to include, grandparents and who,
sure.
Normal, so that if we could get a variance for a higher level of people, that would be perfect to get everybody else back in.
Right. That's why you maybe want to think about that. How would you do that? Just like Ron's doing for the rodeo and Ashley's doing for the parade. What could you do if you had that opportunity? That's all I'm suggesting.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think the sale would be as important as the fair itself in terms of, there's a certain amount of magic that happens when you have a group of people at an auction. And we have inquired of groups that can broadcast that auction live for us and take online bids. That's our plan. So that we can be very nimble when it comes to the actual auction itself to comply with whatever guidelines are that day, right? If we can have 20 people there, then that's fine. Everybody else has to bid online. But that's where I think we would see the best benefit from additional folks would be to, really add some dynamic function to that live auction, because that's really what drives that price. So I would say that's where we would request the most variance, would be to allow the auction to function more like normal.
Okay, so that would be what you'd work as a variance proposals with Alyssa and the team. So good. Come back and see what you got. Thank you. Any other comments on that set of conditions that we just talked? Otherwise, we'll go forward.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Tom.
Now, I have a question that I want to pose to whoever the spokesperson and representatives are for the sale committee, the fair, the rodeo, and the parade. It's one question, and I would like a yes or no answer without a lot of rhetoric from each of those representatives. Do you think we as commissioners or as Board of Health commissioners support and want to see your activity go forward?
Ms. Marlissa, I say yes.
Thank you.
Ron.
Thank you. I was on mute. Tom, yes, I feel like the majority of the board does want our events to move forward.
If it's a majority, which one of us isn't?
Yeah, well, that was an odd thing to say, that's right.
If the majority rules, I think you guys support us. I think that I can't tell you who doesn't because I'm not on your committees. I don't even know who would be opposed. My point is, I believe the majority, which could be all three of you, is in support.
Thank you.
Okay, now Ashley.
Thank you.
We will concur with what Ron said.
Agreed.
Did that cover everybody, Tom, that you'd asked?
Sale committee?
Lance?
Yes.
All right, thank you all. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for the good discussion, everybody. Thank you. All right, let's consider the next item on the agenda, which is the Sky Ranch proposal. Over to whoever has that. Is that you, Alyssa, bringing it up?
Yeah, Alyssa, do you want to talk on it, or I can? It doesn't matter.
Go ahead. Either one of you.
We're talking about the county building opening?
No, Sky Ranch.
Oh my gosh, we're only there. Okay.
No, we can actually cover the other two.
Yeah. So did you all receive the proposal that we sent out for Sky Ranch? The proposal for Sky Ranch?
I did.
So that's probably the most detailed, inclusive proposal that we've received from anyone in this county thus far. Very appropriate, very detailed, very in compliance with the orders that have come from the state. So I guess at this point my recommendation will be that we just approve that proposal. Meredith, if you want to add anything, so please do.
So we've been working with Sky Ranch from the start of this to see what capacity they can function in. And like Alyssa said in the beginning of this meeting, they're going to function with the family groups. They figured out to limit interactions between those family groups, and each family stays within their own cabin. They have activities that they're going to filter through in groups. So like Alyssa said, it's probably one of the better plans that we've seen. I mean, out of it all, we sent it to the region so that people could draft off of that plan. So I'm totally in support of approving it and going forward with that waiver for them.
Well, then let me move that we accept their plan. I agree. I like that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the Sky Ranch plan. Any comments? Anybody from the board? No? Any public comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay.
I vote aye.
Aye. And Canada votes aye. I agree. That's a good proposal. All right. Before we go further, we did discuss the consideration for the livestock sale. Are we comfortable that we covered it all from the Fair Board and Melissa? So we needed to cover.
I don't know, as long as the Fair Board feels they've been represented.
This is Melissa. I just need to know if there's anything else that you ladies need from us to move forward with your variance.
This is Alyssa. I don't think so, Melissa. I think we can put together the verbiage that you guys have in the plans you gave us, and so we can have the variance ready to go as soon as we possibly can to push it through. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, if there's anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody on the sales committee or the Fair Board.
Thanks so
Okay.
much. Perfect. Thank you. You're
I hear.
working with you and moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate your help.
Any other comments? Tom, any other comments?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, let's move forward then. Let's consider the county building. Who wants to bring that up? That was, Tom, your proposal last time.
Well, again, I brought it up as a point to have a discussion and see where we can go about getting the county building open more than it is now. I don't have any great ideas, I'm sorry, but I'm frustrated. I know the citizens are frustrated. I know the employees in the various offices have been frustrated. They're doing their hardest, their best, working their hardest to try to serve the needs of our county. I know maintaining social distancing and unlocking the doors of the courthouse are probably not going to go hand in hand.
Well, I don't know. It might. That's something we need to discuss. Like you see it happening in stores where people either have somebody counting and making sure there's not any more than 10 people in the building at the same time or whatever the number might be, or just watching to make sure people are standing back if they get a little bit too close. And then that, we would have to trust our own employees to help with that as well as the public that comes in. I think it's worth opening up more, personally. I think we can come up with a concept anyway. How about you, Jay? What's your thought?
Well, honestly, I would like to hear what Melissa and Meredith, how they feel about it. Again, I'm going to stand behind the tenets of the law and what the governor's put down. And as long as we can comply with the mandates that are in place, I want to open this place up and let our public come in. I just want to make sure we do it judiciously and appropriately.
Agreed. Melissa, Meredith, what are your thoughts? Have you thought about it?
This is Meredith. I thought about it a few times, especially trying to go in there myself and get some stuff done. Here's the thing. If we can find a way that ensures social distancing with unlocking the doors, then okay, but I don't know how to do that. Is it tape on the door and putting that responsibility on each county office to ensure they don't have more than the people in the office to ensure social distancing? I don't know. I don't want to make that decision. I think I'd rather hear what the county employees and office have to say and then kind of go from there. That's my opinion.
That's good. That's exactly what should happen. I think we need a point of contact within the courthouse or the county building that can help bring people together with you all, that come up with a discussion on how to attack that, and then come back to another meeting. Maybe it's within a few days we can get in there, make this happen. Kelly, would you be willing to help them and get it started?
My plate is so full right now. I just hate to add one more thing. If it's just me sending out an email to everybody saying, hey, what do you think? What's your ideas? I can do that, but...
You know who I think might be good? Might be JD.
He could help with that.
If it's just an email and setting up a meeting, I truly don't mind doing that. Kelly's plate is way too full. There's no reason to add that one on. So if it's just an email to set up a meeting, I'm capable. And trying to figure that out. I just don't. When does the Board of Health want that decision made, so that I can figure out a timeline for that meeting?
I don't know. From what I'm hearing, maybe sooner than later. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, I appreciate what Kenny said, I agree. I think we need to look at some other people to help us here. And Meredith, thank you for that offer. I wonder if an email to ask each of the departments for a boiled down little mini plan. Hey, what would it look like for you if we were to open a courthouse? Maybe 3 or 4 bullet points to say, you know, just like that. I mean, how would your office handle it if we opened the courthouse? What could we do? What shouldn't we do? And just let them respond via email. I'm not sure we need a big meeting. If we could get a little survey put together, basically, and ask them what it looked like for their individual departments, I think that would be helpful for me. I did talk to Laura Lockhart. She said they're functioning fine right now. Obviously, they prefer to be open, but she said, listen, if we can't open, we're okay. I'd just like to get a sense of the other departments, how they feel about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think, Meredith, if you want to take that on and send out a note, and then take a look at each one, synthesize it a little bit, send us what you think for us to look at. We could probably, by consensus, agree without holding another meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Alyssa, what's your input on this? I don't want to overstep here.
No, not at all. I agree with you completely what you're saying. I think it's a great idea to get input from each office and see what their plans can be and what the best way going forward for everybody is. I agree that I think we need to open it up, but we also have to be careful and do it in a responsible way. So,
Tom, just a question, because you've been talking to them. What about the courts? Are they included in this study?
No, not at all. Courts are functioning. They're open 5 days a week.
Yep.
They have their own entrance, own exit. This would only apply to the county buildings, nothing to do with the courts.
That's what I thought. And they are fully open, right? They don't have any other thing to add.
No, they're open and functioning under their own restrictions.
Right. All right. Are we good with that plan forward, or?
Yeah, what I'll do, this is Meredith, I'll create a Google form to send out to the different offices and see just a quick couple questions, and then we can compile that and we'll get that to the Board of Health. Or would this go to the Board of Health, or would it go to the Board of County Commissioners?
We go to Board of Health, and you can email us. Okay?
Okay.
Any comments, other comments before we move on? All right, I think take a look at you again, Ron. Are we good with you, the second?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you again.
For everybody being here. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again. Now, we don't know what the orders are going to be looking like, on the third weekend of July, but we are designing a multiple option guideline that is, going to be consistent with other rodeos that have already occurred across this country. We're looking at 4, maybe 5 different options: a rodeo without an audience, a rodeo with a limited audience, a rodeo with vehicle social distancing audience, a rodeo without an audience. Maybe we can have a rodeo with an audience where we can social distance. We can have everybody be responsible adults in this community and ask people to follow the guidelines just like they are in Walmarts and Home Depots and restaurants, etc. But again, we are putting that together. We're going to be using multiple references. First and foremost, we will be using the PRCA coronavirus ground rules and safety guidelines that were revised on May the 7th, 2020. I made sure that everybody on the Custer County Public Health Agency received a copy of that. I'm also looking at one of the latest rodeos. It is the 2020 Cave Creek Rodeo, COVID-19 ground rules. I know that we are dealing with other states, as has been pointed out to me, and I understand that Colorado is not these other states, but we still want to have some kind of a guide or a reference to run off of. I am also using the Custer County Public Health Agency variance request from the past, using Pueblo County's variance request, again looking at Public Health Order 2028, and also looking at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment guidance for personal recreation, parks, sports, and outdoor pools. So, you know, we are putting that together. I will tell you, we want to have this put together sooner rather than later. We do understand that we do have some time, but in the consideration of everything that's on everybody's plate here, to be able to do what you were saying at the beginning of this, Mr. Chairman, cooperating and working together to find some, you know, consistent ways to make this happen is absolutely the direction we want to go as well. So thank you.
All right, that's great. Thanks for your comments, Ron. Okay, I'm opened up public comments on anything that if we haven't covered it, bring it up now for the record. You can. We'll wait a few minutes, and then if there are no comments, I'll close the meeting. So, comments, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Trent Stafford. I'm on the Custer County Fair Board.
Go ahead, Trent.
It's more of a process question. So as it relates to the plans that have been provided, what's the process in which they come before this board and are approved, submitted to the state, and then some type of answer given back? And what's that timeline look like?
The timeline is as quick as you can do it, and that depends on when you get it. But the bottom line is you can submit a request for consideration at our next Fair Board meeting, or our next Health Board meeting. And we're going to be given that we're in an environment where we need to hold them sooner than later. We file up a couple of requests, put them on an agenda. We've got to have a 24-hour notice. Right? So,
well,
and it's important. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Trent.
Well, I was just going to say, so that's why I was asking the question, because it sounded like the board, and maybe I don't understand the structure, and I understand that the board had that information from us, and so that's the reason I asked the question, kind of what that process and timeline looks like, given the fact that there didn't sound like there needed to be anything else done by us at the board level or the sale committee level.
Yeah,
you're right. Meredith, I can kind of speak to that if you would like. So what would happen is, in anyone, the plan written would be sent and workshopped with Alyssa and I. And then once we feel good about it, then we give that to the Board of Health for them to finalize. And then if that is a plan that is needed to have a waiver, then Alyssa and I, or Alyssa will, as a public health director, create a waiver that then is approved by the Board of Health and then sent to the state asking for that to happen. Now, sometimes a plan doesn't need a waiver. We just want to know that things are happening within social distance protocol. There are certain things in place, and so that plan, we just help the event planner process through that and make sure that, you know, maybe bathrooms weren't considered or hand sanitizer, things like that, and then go through that. So it's all just kind of depending on if a waiver from the state's needed or not. And the timeline, wow, who knows? So the state on our first waiver, we created a process when we send in our waiver, so we had to resend it. That's why it took a little longer. So we're hopeful that the next process is not as long, but we're not sure. We can't give a direct answer on a timeline back from the state. Does that answer your question?
Well, it kind of does. I think there's 2 points that I'd follow up on, and one is it appears that we would absolutely have to have a waiver based on today's order to have the fair, right?
Correct.
So we've provided a plan that it sounded like the existing board is quote-unquote okay with. So the follow-up question is then when will that be submitted for approval and submitted to the state?
Right.
Was the follow-up question to that.
So that's kind of an interesting answer because the fair isn't until July, correct?
Well, but we don't care, because here's what I think. The conversations that we're having is this is the order that we're operating under. Therefore, anything that doesn't follow this order is where we have issue.
Right.
So from our perspective, we want to submit for approval. Let me finish. We would like to submit for approval that waiver. And if they turn it down, then obviously we know if they maintain that order through July, we have an issue.
Right. So Alyssa talked about that earlier. We've had conversations with the state asking if we could submit the waiver for a fair to happen, even if there's a new public health order in July, and that's a no. So we would have to, so we don't know what's going to happen in July, and that's when the fair is. And so we have to put in a waiver for whatever public health order is going to be in place during the time of the fair. It's convoluted and frustrating. We're there with you.
So you're saying that they won't recognize the request for waiver because of the timeline that the fair is outside the timeline of the order?
Correct.
No. Meredith, let me try something here to help you understand. You've applied for a waiver to the current order, and it'll more than likely be accepted and maybe modified. And then you'll live under that. And if the new order comes out identical, no fairs or whatever it was, then we would resubmit the same thing.
Okay, well that makes sense to me. The prior comment was not that. The comment was that they would not submit for a waiver because they didn't accept it.
No.
Well, let's speak to this because I think what I'm saying is correct, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so let me just back up from the very beginning and see if I can, help clarify this a little bit. So right now, the order 2028 amendment number 5 is good through June 30th. We are only allowed to submit a variance to that waiver that will only be good until June 30th as well.
Totally understood.
So, and Trent, I see where you're going with your thought process. So if in logic, which we all understand that the state does not necessarily work logically, but logically we would think that if we were granted the waiver or the variance, so that if pretend our fair was July 17th, was June 17th, July 17th, then if we were approved the waiver now, then we should be approved the waiver in July if the orders stay the same for July, right?
Correct. Well, that would be the general thought. May not be the case, but that's the general thought.
Yeah, okay. So then going forward, okay, so that I understand what you're saying there, and I agree with you completely on that. So that being said, the order that we have now and the variance that we would ask for will only be good until June 30th. So we'll reapply for a new waiver in July.
Yep.
If we get the June one, then we should get the July one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why the question was centered around, we think from the commentary today that we've submitted something that either is acceptable or at least in its form acceptable to be presented, and you don't need anything else from us. So the question then is begged, when will you then present it for approval and submit it to the state so we can sit around and wait on the state to give us a response?
And it's possible.
And then
I'm sorry, Ron, go ahead.
That's okay. I'd just like to pony on that because we've already been told that the timeline for that process is not known. It's up to the state. So if we do not get an answer on that variance after whatever the next order is on July 1st, do we move forward or are we halted?
It's my understanding at this point that we're halted until we hear back on the variance. Go ahead, Bill.
It's the reason, from our perspective, I think, and I don't speak for everybody on the Fair Board, we want to do everything in our power to give to you the ability to make that variance request to the state as soon as possible. And if we've done everything we were supposed to do at this point, as far as information provided to you, I'm just simply asking the question, when will the board then vote on it? And in turn, if they agree, submit it to the state.
Okay, let me answer that. That would be as soon as we can, Brent. In other words, if the variance that you've already got in place and you're happy with, and the order doesn't change much, and you're good with the variance to continue just as written, we'll resubmit it immediately.
No, but we haven't submitted one yet. That's what I'm saying. When will we submit for approval the plan that we put before you guys to ask for the variance?
This is Alyssa. Can I speak to that?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So I would ask that the board today approve that Public Health, myself, could put a variance in for these things. For increase of gathering size to 50, the camp family groups only, the fair, the rodeo, and the parades. And we put the orders in, or we put the variance through with the information that we have right now. If the state approves it, then we know we should be good for July. If they don't approve it, then they will also give us some feedback on what they want to see differently, so that we can fix that for the July variance that we need to put in on the 1st. So if the board would approve those 4 or 5 things right now, then by Monday I could put the variance, by the end of today I could put the variance request in. And then we would, they're saying within 2 weeks we should have an answer. So that's my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize Public Health Nurse go ahead and issue the variance as you just outlined to us.
Do I hear a second? Here's my thought, Jay, just real quick. The whole point we had the discussion earlier on was that from a fair board point of view, that may be appropriate because they are ready. I thought what we gathered out of our discussion is the parade people still need to get together and work what's acceptable to submit. And I think Ron had a few changes to make as well, which could be done quickly. And then, like we've discussed, we could have a separate meeting to approve those quickly. But I think it's appropriate for the fair board. Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. I think we modify it or ask for another variance. I don't think we should stop the fair board's request waiting on other organizations to fulfill the requirements.
I agree. I didn't say that. I said we should approve the fair board separately right now as a separate.
Okay, I would agree with that. If we're gonna, this is really up to Melissa. Does it make sense to go ahead and put in multiple variances at one time, or one variance that covers everything?
This is Alyssa. I have mixed feelings about that because I feel like the more variances we put in, the better chance we have of some of them just taking longer. Not necessarily that they'll be rejected, but just, we're one of 63 counties that are putting variances in right now. So, but I am definitely in favor of going ahead and putting in the fair board because what their approval, or what their plan is, I feel is acceptable to present to the state. And I don't have anything from the fair board or from the rodeo board. And like I said, what we got from the parade is not acceptable at this point. So.
Okay, but Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Jay.
I'd like to modify my motion to have the public health nurse issue the variance for the fair board as soon as she can in a reasonable period of time.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to issue the variance that we've discussed for the fair board to be submitted as soon as possible. Comments?
Sales Committee.
I'd echo that.
Well,
Okay.
Board of really want to do it for everybody. We're just not quite ready. That's the only problem.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Got a motion
I
and a
second
second.
for the fair board. Is there an assumption that that includes the sale committee?
It would be, I guess that we were assuming that was the case, the way it was presented.
I would think so.
Predicate to make it so.
And is the sale committee on board with that?
Yes, I think Lance got off. Miss Marlissa, we're on board. Is anybody else on Pepper? I think maybe she got off too.
Okay. Any other comments? Good comment. It is inclusive, so I'm gonna. You want to restate that clearly?
Sure. I've amended the motion to be as follows: that the Board of Health authorizes Public Health Nurse to issue the variance for the Fair Board at her earliest convenience.
That was your original motion.
You want to modify it to include the sale, the livestock sale too?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yes, and to include the livestock sale portion of that. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were asking.
Second?
Yeah, second agrees with the amendment.
All right. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the Fair Board and stock sale presentation for their variance be accepted and submitted as soon as possible. Call for a vote. Jay?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Canada? Aye. So go ahead. Move forward, Fair Board and livestock sale. Well,
Thank you, guys.
Move forward if it's approved.
And Health Committee.
Yeah. For the health.
Yeah, I will let everybody know as soon as I hear anything about that variance. In fact, I'll let you know as soon as it's submitted, and then I'll let you know if we hear anything back.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Tom.
question for Alyssa. Can you send us a copy of that when you do send it in?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the Alyssa, that process that they redid hasn't changed now, has it? The email process.
Correct. It's the same as the last variance that we put in, so it should be a little bit more streamlined than the last time we put it in.
Yeah, so we'll get a time hack on this one. Okay, any other comments, public?
This is Ron Beckner with the Wet Mountain Valley Saddle Club. This is more of a question because I know for consideration of opening the county building, you guys were looking at a survey by departments. Would the board be in favor of having a survey of our community about these events that we're discussing?
That's one of the things we talked about actually earlier on about how whenever I think Alyssa was mentioning it in her report to the board about creating a Google form once we get the variances ready. The problem right now is timeline, so we can work on that. Me and Alyssa and our team will have to figure out the best kind of foot forward in that process, but yeah, we're going to look for ways for the community input.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Dan, Ron, we've kind of moved down the road a long way since that can, if you look at the next release of a new public health order, it's going to be even less restrictive, we assume. Which, everybody, if any of you take a poll right now, everybody's going to say, I want to have it all the way open. Get out of the way. Right? So, all right. Any other comments?
Yes, this is Tracy Ballard. I just want to say that if we need to wait till 7/1 to maybe do this, then we're going to withdraw our request for a parade. We're out. It's just we have been jumping through hoops, and it's just extremely frustrating. What we're trying to do has been mischaracterized as a riot if we don't get our way, and so forth, and that is not what our intention is. So, we're left with a very, very tight timeline, and there's just no way. There is a lot involved that goes into planning these parades and other events, and it just seems like we're jumping through hoops, and we're done. We're over it.
Tracy, let me make a comment. You're more than welcome to withdraw it if you feel you need to. But right now, that would be a little premature, Mike, because you still have to have a plan, regardless. And regardless, that parade is going to occur on a timeline that says the 4th of July, which is almost immediate, isn't it? I would still let the plan evolve, as long as you're not spending any money to do it. This would be thrown away needlessly. I know that's the case in some cases. But, we're strapped from a state point of view. It's something we all want to have happen. So there is an order that says it is not. That's just something we can't deal with other than ask for permission to do it. So let's think hard on that before you formally withdraw it. My recommendation.
And I completely understand, but I know Ashley and I are personally out already almost $1,500 with planning and buying extra insurance. And, countless hours have been spent on phone calls and lining things up, and it's just...
Well, I know it's frustrating, but, boy, given that investment, it gives me all the more reason to say don't quit now. Run this horse.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess a question for Tracy. You said you're done. What do you mean by that? I'm not following you.
So we're just done with the whole proposal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She wants to withdraw and cancel the parade.
Mr. Chairman, we made the proposal with the waiver, and just like Alyssa said earlier, it's acceptable at this point. We can go ahead and we can resend it to you all, but at this point, we are very frustrated, especially at the point of being told that protest leave private.
Wait a minute.
That we want aid. We understand what our rights are.
Actually, that's okay. Let's not go into that again. The bottom line is that we've all agreed that there's an opportunity to get a better parade route or parade process or parade waiver. You just got to sit down and do that and come back to it. It's not going to take any more time. It's not going to stop anything from happening on the 4th of July unless you decide not to do it. So I would get in there. Don't give up. You heard Alyssa and Meredith say they're willing to consider other things that they didn't even brought up some ideas as we were talking. So I would not stop now. Just a recommendation. All right. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and second. We adjourn.
Are you asking for the vote?
Yeah.
Aye.
Jay? Aye. And aye. Thank you, guys, and thanks everybody for the time and effort you put in to doing this today. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.